materials, I do want you to take notes. I usually, don't request it, but, or ask, but today I want you to take some notes because it's very important about what the creator is going to share with us. And again, we're in a learning environment and we're in an environment that has been set apart for the creator of the heavens and the earth, which is today is the Shabbat. So we're thankful for that. I pray to him. I thank him. Hallelujah. Yahweh, we thank you today for this day, the Yom Shabbat, Yahweh. Toda Rabah. Toda Rabah, Yahweh, for all things. Yahweh, thank you for your words. Thank you for your creation. Thank you for your wonders. Thank you for your kindness, and thank you for your mercy, Yahweh. Thank you for your love that's been given towards us, Yahweh. Thank you for the revelation of your name. Thank you, Yahweh, for remembering the covenant you made with our fathers of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Thank you for remembering the covenant, Yahweh, that you've made with our fathers that were at Mount Sinai. Thank you, Yahweh, for remembering the descendants of those who have turned their backs against you. Hallelujah. Toda Rabbah. Hallelujah. 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 Toda Rabbah Yahweh. All right, so let's get right into it. And of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, and make sure that your phones are on mute. And, we are, Israel is sometimes we could be, talking and stuff and not really paying attention. But today I want us to really focus on this. I also want to give out a little warning that today is not going to be an easy day for none of us, really, to be honest with you. If I say some things that you may not agree with, I don't want you to be angry. I want you to consider. I want you to understand. Can everyone see my screen, first of all? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want any of us to be upset at what I'm going to tell you. Some things I'm going to mention to you that you probably never heard before. It's going to appear that I don't know if I'm going to get, what they would call it, excitable about some things. I don't know. Okay. But I'm going to try to put this over in a way that can make sense for all of us so we can all grow and understand. We need to understand that we are a body of people. We are the Most High's children. And the Creator has spoken to us, and he's letting us know about creation itself. And he's letting us know on how he sees things. And often when he tells us how he sees things, a lot of us sometimes may be offended and we don't like what he's saying. We don't like the words. And so we try to justify some of the behaviors that we've had in the past. And of course, I want you to know that I'm not singling out any individual at all. But I think sometimes, I was kind of reluctant to do this lesson and go this direction I'm going. But I felt led to bring it out because we don't hear about it enough. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these things today and let you know how important things are. And may the Creator of the heavens and the earth show us compassion and continue to show us mercy in this teaching today. Okay, let's begin with the idea of humanity. This idea of humanity, the Creator of the heavens and the earth has created a being, a type, a kind, a species, unlike anything else that he's ever made. He's given us the ability to think, and he's given us the ability to reason. He's given us the ability to love and to cry, to have emotion, and to speak and to hear and to listen and to see. But the question is, which was found in the book of Tehillim, which is the Psalms, in two places, not just one, it asked the question, they're asking Yahweh the question, what are mere mortals? What is Adam that you would notice them at all? And Adam is humanity and humans that you would even think about them. And so with that question being asked, we begin to start thinking about how should we live our lives, and why has the Creator thought about us? Why has he considered us? Why hasn't he destroyed us? Why hasn't he put an end to us? Why has he been so patient and long suffering with us? And so today the goal is to bring out why and what are some of the things that we're required to do. Okay. And what is man? What is Adam? So I bring the scripture out in order to bring us an understanding of what truly is Adam. Adam is, like I said, humankind has been created in both a male and a female. They've been created, they've been made in the image of the creator. The image of the creator is both male and female energy. Okay. And so when you look at us, we look different. We have different parts, but we share things in common, like, skin and eyes and ears and head and arms and all those other things. But then also too, we have different other features about our bodies that distinguish us from one another. And those body parts are used, and they were made in order to glorify the creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, of course, there's been a lot of what they would call defilement of the things that Yah has made. There's been a lot of filth and a lot of misunderstandings and how we've been thinking about our bodies and thinking about how we work together as male and female. And so those things have been very difficult for us to discuss because there's been a lot of taboo around it. And there's been a lot of things that have made things difficult for us to understand, right? Because the filth that has been put on it. But I want to kind of bring a little bit more clarity today from these things that the creator wants us to understand. Adam is meaning a sense of moving back and forth of water. That's what Adam truly is. The name Adam, let me see here. Let's see if this behaves. We need some writing. I hate when that happens. Adam is a moving of back and forth of water. And you may ask yourself, well, what do you mean about a back and forth of water? And why are you mentioning this right now? Well, simply because when you look at the word Adam, okay, you have the letter, an aleph, a dalet, and a mem. Okay. So what does this mean? Well, the first letter is the strength, or an ox, as we've been told before, right? And then we have the dalet and we have a mem. Okay. The idea of the dalet is what? What can you remember about the dalet? Somebody tell me.
The doorway, back and forth.
The door. Yes. So what does a door do?
Open and close.
It opens and closes. And when you're opening it, it moves back and forth. Okay.
Oh,
When you're talking, yes, it's back and forth. When you talk about the letter mem, what are we talking about?
Like water flowing.
Talking about water, talking about flow, right? So the water is the mem, but also is represented by a liquid form, but the mem can represent any fluid. It can represent blood. It can represent urine. It can represent water. It can represent any type of fluid. Okay. So the water and the back and forth movement of the water is the back and forth movement of what they would call the blood. Okay. That's what makes us Adam. Okay. And today we're going to break Adam down. I'm going to break it down, right, for you. So the word Adam actually comes from a word called Dam, which is the two root letters, which are a dalet, represented by the letter D, and a letter M, which is the letter mem, okay, represented by the letter M. And these two letters right here represent something, okay? And all I needed to do is to make it Adam is put a letter A on the front of it to make it Adam, okay? They would call it Adam, but it's Adam. So let's look at that and figure out what that is. The dalet and the mem, when you put those together, it means blood. That's what it means. So when we look at Adam, we're looking at the aleph, which represents strength. Let me put it up here for us right quick. When I put that aleph on here, it means strength. The strength of what? The blood. It's the strength of the blood. Okay. And so we literally have rivers of blood in vessels. Okay. They look like, our veins and everything in our body look like courses of rivers. And so we have big channels, and then we have smaller channels and capillaries and so forth and so on. So as you can see, the creator has literally taken the earth and made another earth out of it, which is the humankind. Okay. And instead of us having water running through our system, you and I have blood running through our system, which is like water. Okay. Adam is the Aleph, the Dal, and the Mem. Okay. It also has this idea of pigmentation. It means actually color. Okay. That's what it means. It means pigmentation. So it's not just the function of it, how it works, but also too, what does it look like? That's what it is. So what is Adam after these things that we've just shared today? What is Adam? If you were to think of Adam, what color would pop in your head from everything that we've learned so far?
Red, brown.
Red. Yes, it'd be red. So the association with Adam has to do with blood. It has to do with man, and it has to do with the ground. It has to do with the color of the earth, the color of man, and the color of blood. Okay. And we get that color red from this, and that is what they would call Adon. Okay. Sometimes we have heard it in the past called, you guys ever hear of a man called, what's his name?
Is it Dawid was ready?
Yeah, Dawid was ready, but who else was ready?
Esau.
Esau. Thank you. Esau was ready, right? So Esau is ready. Okay. So the word that we have for Esau that they named him, which we're going to put up here in a second, is Edom, Edom. Okay. Okay. Edom, which is, they call it Edom. Okay. So Edom is not a white man. Okay. I need to clarify this for our viewers. Edom is not a white man. Okay. He didn't come out white. He is not white. He's not white. That's wrong. He's not white. He's ruddy. He's red. Okay. So if it was written in Hebrew, it would be an aleph right here, and then it would be a dalet, the next one, and then it would have a wa with a little dot over it. Let me see here. And then it would have a mem, Adon. Okay. So Adon or Edom or Edom is to be ruddy. It's not white. It's not. Now, am I saying that he hasn't transferred his color over and has intermingled with other people's and become white? That's very likely that that has happened. But when we're talking about him, we're talking about a man that was made in a ruddy color. Okay. So here it is. Let's see. Let's verify. So by verifying, it says the first to come out was a reddish, meaning Adon, and covered all over with hair like a coat. So they named him Esau. Okay. Completely formed. Okay. That is having hair already. So the reason why he's named Esau is because he was hairy, because that's where that word comes from. It comes from being hairy. That's what Esau means. But the creator then calls him Edom. He calls him Edom. And the reason why he calls him Edom is because he is reddish. He's ruddy. Okay. The next word that I want to introduce you to is Dama. So as you can see the word Dam in there. You can see those letters right there. Hopefully you can recognize the word. I want you to recognize it. You got the dalet and you got the mem. Again, you got Dam in there. So you can see blood right here. D-A-M, and then you got the A on there. So what does Dama mean? Well, let me explain it to you. Let's look what Dama is. So you got Adam, you got Dam, you got Edom, and you got Dama. So what is Dama? Dama means likeness. It means to compare. Okay. So what this word is for us to have a likeness. Okay. And to make a comparison. So I have these two pictures up here because I want to give you an idea of what ruddy looks like. There's a variety of different shades of it. It's not just one color, it's a range, just like, you know, when you have black or any other color, there's a color palette with different ranges of that color. So as you can see in these two photos right here, they're like this red copper looking color. Some are a little bit darker than others, looking like, something that's been put into an oven, very bronze. And these are the colors that are represented by the first human being. I know that makes a lot of people angry and it makes them upset, but this is what it is. These are the people of the sunlight. These are people of oil. These are people of the ground, okay? As you mentioned, Dr. Yared, it was true that Dawid was ruddy. It says he sent and brought him in. This is in context where Shemuel went to go look for a king that Yah sent him to Yeshai's house and said, hey, let me see your sons. He brings out 7 of his sons, and then Dawid is the final son. And he says, is there anybody else in here? He says, no, there's only one. He's left outside. He's with the sheep right now. He said, well, go get him. We're not sitting down and eating till we see this kid. And so he brought him up and he says, he sent him, he brought him in with the ruddy cheeks. He had red hair and bright eyes, and he was a good looking fellow. And Yahweh says, stand up and anoint him. He's the one. He's the one. So Shemuel took the horn of oil and anointed him there in his brother's presence. Okay. All his older brothers are mad, they're upset. And from that day on, the spirit of Yahweh would fall upon Dawid with power. So Shemuel set out and he went to Ramah, and that's where you can find it. So the ruddiness, again, is associated with every aspect of humanity. Every aspect of humanity has to do with being red or being like a reddish, ruddy color. So your blood is red, your hair can be red, your skin tone is red, the red heifer. Okay, so those things, this is what Yah is interested in. All right. And the ground, the ground is called Adamah. And as you can see, again, we have those letters that are prominent in here, which is the Aleph, the Dalet, the Mem. And if you put the, right here, it looks like a Dam right here. Those 3 letters. And then you got the Hey on the end. So that's the Ah. And anytime you put Ah, which we would have as an AH, gives it femininity. Okay. So this is the mother of humanity. Okay. And the mother of humanity she is red. The ground, the land, and all of the earth that Yah made was of a reddish, brownish substance. Don't be mad when I tell you that dirt is never white. Don't be mad when I tell you that if you saw white dirt, you would know that something's wrong. So humanity is not made from a white man. It's not. It's not made from an Asian man. Okay. Every man on the face of the earth came from a black man. Or let me correct myself, comes from a ruddy man, not a black man. Black has been a color of designation for us, and black has a lot of negative connotations. So I retract that statement. You and I are not black. So get that out your vocabulary. You're not black. You're ruddy. You're a person of color. See, they gave you black because black means evil. Black means to be void of color. You understand? Meaning you're in darkness. They know that black means something that, evil. So let's don't put that on us, okay? We're not black. You are ruddy. You are a person of color, okay? And out of us came all other types and kinds of people. What is the idea here that we want to understand? We want to understand that Yahweh formed a person, okay? This is what Yahweh has done. He formed, meaning Adam, from the dust of the Adamah, out of the ground, out of the dirt, the soil, and he breathed into his nostrils and the breath of life, which we talked about earlier this week about the neshama, which is a pant, a real puff of air, like just real quick, just that spark, so that he became a living soul, okay? When it talked about that word Yitzhar, I mentioned it earlier this week, and Yitzhar, it means something. It's not, when it talks about he formed him, there was 2 words that were used. One was used like he fashioned him, which is Yitzhar, and he formed him. But the other one is that he made him, So what does Yitzhar mean? Okay. Yitzhar means to form or to fashion something. Okay, so it's like it has to do with a potter and how a potter takes clay and he molds it to whatever he wants it to be. So what the creator did, he took the dust of the earth, which was moist from where we found out that the water from the earth, it came up from amidst out of the earth. It didn't rain. So what he did was he took this soil like clay and he made the human body out of it. Okay, the shape and the form, and he shaped this human out of it. Okay, and he created this image. And then once he finished with the image, then he breathed this puff of air to spark it, to give it life. And he also gave it a soul by him doing that. Once he gave it that puff, that neshama, it became a living nefesh. It became a soul, right? So as mentioned earlier, the animals and the plant, not the plant life, but the animals and the ramesh and the creeping things and the fish and the birds, they have souls too, but their souls are known as nefesh, but their souls came up out of the ground. That's what if you read the text carefully, it says that their souls and their bodies came out from, because he asked Adamah to bring forth those things out of the earth, and then she did, and the things that came out were living souls. So their souls come from out of the earth. Our souls come from the puff of the air that the creator gave us, which means that you and I are not locked down into the earth. We have a spirit of freedom and we have a power of choice. And that's what the creator did. When he formed us, he formed a mind, not only a body. Yasar means an image. And what he was doing was he was forming man in this image, okay? And in his image, okay, which is a Zadi Resh, that's the name of what it means to form, okay? The actual meaning of this image means enemy. The word zar is mentioned for someone who presses something, to press. And whenever a potter's doing something, he has to mold and press. He's pressing upon that clay. So in essence, what the creator did is he formed this person, and he pressed it together with the materials from the earth, and then he breathed into him, which was the neshama, and he becomes a living soul. And he also gives him a ruach, which is a spirit, so it allows him to breathe and to walk around, right? So what was interesting about this is that when the creator put us together and he knows all things, he developed an individual that had the potential to be an enemy against him. You may ask, well, how is this true? I know that sounds foreign to us, but it means that someone who is an enemy is one who is who puts you under pressure, right? And so now this idea of an enemy is introduced by creation. And what happened during this Genesis account, this in the beginning, at the beginning of things, is that the creator is what he would call created what they would call imagination, which you would find in the word imagination, the word image. Okay, so this image, right, that he's making is one of a mind. It's a thought process. It's how to calculate. That's what he's given us. And by doing so, man has now become what you will call having a mind of his own to do what he wants to do, okay? And so we have in Bereshit 6, which I believe was maybe part of our Torah portion, he said, Yahweh saw that the people on earth were very wicked, and that all their imaginings, all their imaginations, all their thoughts of their minds, and what they got hearts here, but is really minds, were always of evil. Always of evil. Meaning that they've become an enemy of the creators because he gave them free will to do what they wanted to do. And of course, this is after the fall of man, meaning like after he's decided that he wanted to do his own thing, which we're going to get into shortly. So the idea of Yah creating humanity was like creating a person who could become an enemy of his. Okay. And you may ask yourself, well, why would he create an enemy? We'll get into that shortly. So when Yah created humanity, he literally created what they would say is an image, and the image became an enemy to the creator, and they became an enemy through their mind, okay? And that's generally how it starts. It starts with the mind, okay? But now I want to talk to you about this idea of the Zakar and the Keva, okay? The Zakar, as we went over before, means a male. That's a male. Okay, remember he said that I should make them both a male and a female. That word male in Bereshit 127 is talking about Zakar. Okay, that's what it is. A Zakar. Zakar means a memorial. It means a male. Okay, and so in the female, it's called a Nekeva. Okay, Nekeva. I got the B there because that's the letter that it is, a letter bet, but it's pronounced in a very soft tone. That's why it's called Nekeva. And we're going to talk about that. Now, when I begin to talk about Zakar and I begin to talk about a male and the female, which we're talking about the image of the creator, I want to direct everything that I'm going to say about a Zakar is not for the males. I'm not talking to the males. Okay. I'm not talking to you males about yourselves. I'm not going to do that. I've been instructed by the creator of the heavens and the earth to tell the females what a Zakar is. And I've been instructed to tell the males what a Nekeva is. So when I'm talking about Zakar, I really want you men not to open your mouths and don't say anything. I don't want you to say one word. I don't want you to say yeah or oh. I don't want you to say anything because this Zakar is not directed to you. And likewise, when I begin to talk about Nekeva, I don't want you women, sisters, to say anything. I don't want you to say, oh, okay. I don't want you to get, because I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the males. So I'm reversing. I'm going to mention the male first because the creator has created him first. Okay. So sisters, listen to this. Yahweh, Nekeva, listen to what Yah says about the Zakar. Yahweh Elohim gave the person, giving the Adam, which is the Zakar. He gave him this order, which is a command. You may freely eat from every tree in the garden except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You are not to eat from it, because on the day that you eat from it, you will become certain that you will die. Okay. Again, talking about Zakar, keep that in mind as part of our Torah portion. Zakar means to remember, and it means that I need to remind you of what a Zakar is. I need to remind you of some things. Nekeva, what the creator wants to remind you of is several things. The first thing he wants to remind you is that the Zakar is Rishon. The Zakar is Rosh. The Zakar is Bakar. The Zakar is One. The Zakar is Av. The Zakar is Bain. The Zakar is Ish. And the Zakar is Adon. Every one of these words right here, I'm going to quickly go over to remind you of what the creator said about him and what does it mean. I didn't put all the different texts that go along with it, but trust me, I know exactly where they are. And I'm letting you know that the creator has said these things and he wants to remind you, because if you don't know who these titles are and what they are, you're prone to do something that's going to get you in trouble. And you're going to cause yourself to do what your ancestors have done and what your ancestor mother has done. And that's what Yah is trying to change. This is the beginning of everything. So let's begin with Rishon. Rishon is the first. We're in the book of Bereshit, meaning it's the first. It's the first, Rishon. Man, the masculine energy was the first that was created. He's the first. He's the Rosh. He is the head. He is the chief of all things. This is what the creator has made him. He's actually made him the Bakar. He is the one who was chosen. He's chosen to be the first. He's chosen to be the Rosh. He's not only chosen, but he's the One. He's the strength of literally everything. What do I mean by being the strength? He's the Av. And from our understanding of Av means to be a father. But a father is what they would call the strength of the house. And we can find that he's the strength of the house simply by looking at the letters of the word father, which is Av. In the language, you'll find it, okay? In this language, you're going to find what the creator says. This is the ox, which is the strength. This is the bet, which is the tent, which is the family, which the family dwells in a house. He's the strength in that house. If he's not in the house is not strong, and it never will be, because this is the order in which the creator has set and he has designated. He's the strength of that house. Okay. Not only is he the strength of the house, but he is, let me see. He is the bane of the house. He's the continuance of the family. Where's that? If you look at the letter Bain, it's a bet and a noon. He is the son. That's what son is. And the son is a continuation of the house. This right here means seed. And this is house or family. The son is the one who continues the name of the family. The daughters do not continue the name of the family. They don't. The sons are the ones who continue the name of the family. This is what the order of the creator is. That's why it's important for you to make sure, if you have sons, that the whole goal for you to teach them is that they're responsible for continuing the family. This is why Sarah was willing to do what she was doing about giving Abraham another wife. This is why Raquel, even though she couldn't have children, she was willing to have another woman bring forth children for her in order to build the family. They understood that. This is why Leah did what she did. This is why Yitzchak prayed for Rivkah, so they can continue the family. If you don't continue the family, you don't continue the promise. Okay, so he is the Bain. That's what a Zakar will be. He will be a Bain. He will be a son. He will be a father. He will be an Ish. And what is an Ish? An Ish is a husband. He's the one of the high degree. He's the highest degree of the pinnacle of what humanity represents. He's supposed to be regarded with the highest degree of respect and the highest degree of trust and fidelity. He's also an Adon. He's a ruler. He's supposed to rule over all disputes and quarrels. He's supposed to judge all matters of the home. But I have news for you. Nothing that I've showed you so far, you don't already know. You know these things. And without you, listen to me carefully, without you, he could be none of these things. None of it. He could never be a father without you. He could never be a son without you. He could never be a husband without you. He could never be a ruler without you. You understand? When Yah designated him to be the Rishon and the Rosh and the Bekar and Oneh, it's simply because you are the ones who's supposed to put him in that position and regard him as such. He didn't find anybody suitable for him through any other creation. Any else thing was made. No one else on the face of this earth has the responsibility that you have, Nekeva, in order to make sure that you keep him in the light in which the Creator has designated for him. It is your job and your responsibility to make sure that he's all these things that he's supposed to be. Because if he didn't need you, the Creator would have never made you. He knew without you, he could never achieve the desire in which why he created him in the first place. Okay, and let's get a little bit more into it. Okay, so that was for you. Now, Zakar, I'm talking to you now. Now we're going to talk about the Nekeva. Okay, the Nekeva means to gather inside. The reason why she's identified as gathering inside is simply because when the Creator made her, okay, he created what you would call a hole. And he created that hole and he pierced, because this is what that Nekeva means, to make a hole or to pierce, okay? And he made her through a hole, and he made her by piercing something, okay? And he said that it's not good, it's latov, meaning it's not functional. It's not good, it's not something that works for a man if the Zakar is alone. So the person, meaning the human, Adam gave names to all the livestock and to the birds of the air and to every wild animal, but for Adam, there was not found a suitable companion. So for someone to help him, an Azer. An Azer is someone who's resourceful, someone who's a helper. That's what she is for. She's there to help. She's there to fill in the places in which you cannot see. She's called a Negero. She's supposed to be the opposite, and she's supposed to be looking towards you. And the reason why she's looking towards you is because there's things that you and I can't see that they can see, because that's their job. Okay. As mentioned to you before, she was there as a pierce. Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And while he was sleeping, he took one of his ribs and closed up the place from which he took it with flesh. The rib in which Yahweh Elohim had taken from the person, he built a woman. He built an Isha. And he brought her to the man person, meaning he set her in front of him. I want to focus your attention, Zakar, to this idea of being built. The word being built in the Hebrew is called banah, and banah, B-A-N-A-H, banah. Sorry about my writing. My pen don't want to work for whatever reason today. So banah means to build, and you can't build nothing. I want you to hear me and hear me well. You can't build anything without wisdom, and you can't build it without understanding. So when Yah was building this woman, he built her from the materials that came from you, okay? Out from you. He pierced you to take something out of you to make her, to build her. And it took wisdom and it took skill. So when Yah created an Akeva, what he did was he created someone that has wisdom, someone who has knowledge, someone who has skill, and someone who has understanding. You can't build nothing without wisdom, skill, and knowledge. And a matter of fact, banah means a plan. It means a plan. You can't build nothing without a plan. When Yah built this Nekeva, when he built this woman, when he built this Isha, he had a plan in mind for man. She's the plan. She's the design. You can't build a family without her. You understand? I'm talking to you, Zakar. This is Yah's plan. That's his plan, is to build family with her because of the materials. The reason why he chose her, the reason why he chose this Nekeva is for a very specific reason. He chose her in order for you to have someone to look at so you can understand what's going on with you. When he said he set her before him, it's for him to look at her as a reflection of oneself. A lot of us have problems with our wives, but actually the problem is not with her. The problem is with you, or may I say us. The problem is with us. It's because you and I don't have enough sense to open our eyes and look at whatever's going on, that there's an issue between you and us, okay, with the Creator. He's used our wives to show us the problem that you and I have with him. That's what the problem is. And I'm going to get to it. She's gathered from the inside. She's a cavity. That's why when he designed her body, he gave her a cavity. And in order for those two things to come back together, the man has to have the ability to go back inside of his wife, for that rib to be put back into its place and for them to be unified as one. They have to come together. If you understand the plan, if you can understand the language I'm saying. She's from the inside, from piercing and making a hole. He's designed her to have a body that has a hole so you can reunite yourself back with her. The reason why he gave you her is because she's a rib, and the rib that he took from you is a bone. And the man person, he said, at last, this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She's to be called woman, Isha, because she was taken out of man, the Ish. This is why a man is to leave his father and mother and stick to his wife, meaning to cleave and to be like glue. You're supposed to stick to your wife. Where do we get this idea of sticking and an idea of clinging? It's the same thing the Creator told us to do as his people, to stick to me, cling to me, hold on to me. You see? And they are to be one flesh. Now, I want to bring to your attention, Zakar, the humanity from Zakar, from a man's perspective. The man is the one who said, let a man leave his father and mother and stick to his wife. A lot of us have put our mothers before our wives. A lot of us has put other women in before our wives. A lot of us have given attention to other women instead of our wives. A lot of us are looking at other women for counsel instead of our wives. Why did Yah give the rib out of a man to design and to build this woman? I'm about to tell you. Why? Because that bone comes from the word etzim, and etzim means bone. And bone comes this word atzah, and atzah means counsel. That's why he designed her the way he built her, because she is supposed to be your counsel. That's what it's supposed to be. That's how she's supposed to help you and I through counsel. Okay, but not only that, but when Yah created her, when he built her, I need you to really hear what I'm about to tell you. There was something that was left over from the man besides taking out his rib. Yah did not create a whole nother being in terms of a spirit. I have this word remnant up here because a remnant is a residue, and the residue is this. You'll find this in the book of Malachi, my messenger, that he tells us what it is. In context, he's talking to the men of Israel, more specifically Yehuda, about their unfaithfulness to their wife or their youth. And listen to what he says. And he hasn't made them, and hasn't he made them? Who? Male and female, the one flesh? We're one flesh. We're bone of bone and flesh of flesh. And having the residue, the remnant of the spirit to him. The to him there is to the Creator. The Creator had a residue. He had something left over when he made the male, when he made the Zakar. So the part of you that you married and the part of you that you're engaged with is the other half of you, who you are. Is the residue was left over of the spirit of you. It's not that she just shares common humanity with you. She shares the Ruach with you. That's what she shares with you. So what we find is that that image, that male and female are not separate there. Even though he said, I made them both male and female, you and I take, well, that's a male and that's a female. So he made two different things. No, it's one. Listen carefully. For what the one flesh, reason why Yah has done this is because he seeks a seed from Elohim, one seed to be unified, because the two shall make one, the two shall become one, the two shall make one what? One body, make one seed, and they continue the process. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, both male and female. Don't break faith with your wife of your youth. I hate divorce, says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. And him who covers his clothing with violence, says Yahweh. Zavaoth, he mentions this covering his clothing with violence is because the person who found somebody that was dead, and instead of, burying them or whatever, they rob them when they see their body. So they found a dead body, they take their clothes off them, they search, they got their wallet and walk off like the jacket that they're wearing is not something they just stole off a dead person. That's a treacherous person. That's what he's saying. It's equivalent to how divorce is. Divorce is one of the cruelest things that a man could do to a woman. And the reason why divorces are happening, by the way, is for several reasons. The number one reason for divorce is a lack of communication. Well, Kika, it seems like you're being a little bit harder on us than you are on them. Listen to me carefully. Divorce is what something that Yah despises and he hates. He hates it just like he hates uncleanness, or he hates impurity. He hates it just like he hates homosexuality. He hates it. And the reason why he hates it, he doesn't love the sending away. He doesn't like that. He doesn't enjoy that. It's not what he wants. Does he know that sometimes that may happen and it's possible? Yes. But he hates it. And the reason why it's happening is because there's a lack of communication. The reason why it's happening because there's a lack of fidelity. The reason why it's happening because there's a lack of intimacy. The reason why it's happening because there's a lack of concern. That's why it's happening. And guess who is happening more to any other people on the face of this earth? The Black family. The Black woman. She's being divorced. And there's a variety of reasons we can go into. But I want to share that with you. Also, too, what we find is that there's a translation, a mistranslation in our text that we read in the Torah this week that I want to bring to your attention. Getting into the idea of the deception that happened in the garden. It says this in Bereshit 3:1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any wild animal which Yahweh Elohim had made. He said to the woman, did Elohim really say you are not to eat from any tree in the garden? That's a mistranslation. That's a mistranslation. That is false. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you. The reason why these people wrote this in English and they poses it as a question is because they want you to think that the serpent, which they would call the devil, which is not true, is not the devil. It's actually a beast. That's all it is. It's a kaya. Okay? That's all it is a kaya. A kaya is a beast like it came out of the field. All right? And this beast was very crafty. It was very shrewd. It's very subdued. It knows exactly how to get to somebody. And it did not ask a question. There is no interrogative in this sentence in Hebrew. Okay. If it was an interrogative, it would say what or me or ma or madua or whatever. It never asked a question. He never asked a question. What he did was, and this is the mistranslation, there's no question here. This never happened. This never happened. All he said was this. He made not a question, he made a statement, not a question. The statement that he said is he said, Elohim said, you are not to eat from any tree in the garden. That's what he said. And you and I are supposed to learn something from this if you knew if it was in Hebrew. Otherwise, you and I would just think this is a question. So we would say the answer would be what she said, and that's not true. It would take you off the scent. You would never know what Yah's trying to teach us. Yah's trying to teach us this. When someone's coming to be crafty, okay, and someone's coming to be shrewd, and they're coming to deceive you, and they're coming to harm you, they're not going to ask you a question. Generally, when a person wants to get to you, what they're going to do is they're going to make a statement. They're going to say something to elicit something out of you. He wouldn't have been crafty by asking a question. It wasn't a trick question. It was a statement. The statement was the craft. The statement was saying something, not asking a question, but making a statement to elicit you to make a response. Because he knew that, wait a minute, I know that she was just made, and I know that she was built for him because previously, Adam looked at me and he didn't see anything in me to give him counsel or nothing. I got overlooked. So let me get to him, but I know how I can get to him. I can get to him through his representative. That's how I'm going to get to him. The reason why he said to the woman, okay, and listen, He spoke to the woman because the woman is the representative. She's the counselor. She's the advisor. That's why the man sat back and didn't say anything, because she's doing her job right now at this point. Okay. He says, you and I would think that he's talking to her in a singular, like he's talking to the woman. Wrote that wrong. You think it's talking to her by herself. He's not. He's talking to them. The man is standing there. This you right here is plural. It's not singular. So he's not just addressing her. He's just talking to her as the representative, but he's talking to both male and female. They're both there at the same time. You understand? Now let's check this out. He makes a statement to say that you are not to eat from any tree in the garden. You and I know that that wasn't true. He's eliciting something from her. And what he's eliciting is this. What he's eliciting from her is he's going to leverage her about her ability to be wise and to give advisement. Okay. He's had conversations. They already know this is not new. Adam named this Nakash. That's the name of this beast right here. Nakash, not Satan. It's not called Satan. It's called Nakash. So it's not no devil. Okay. There's another mistranslation. So the first one is that they made you think that it was a question. The next mistranslation is going to really mess you up. You never heard it. I never caught it, even though I've been reading the Torah for years. I've never seen it until recently. Yahweh Elohim said, see, the man has become like one of us. Have you guys ever seen this before? Have you ever heard this before?
Yes.
Okay. Who's the us? Who is Yah talking to? Knowing good and evil now to prevent his putting out his hand and taking also from the tree of life and eating and living forever. They tried to tell us that this is talking about either Christ of the New Testament or is talking about the angels. See, right? He's become like one of us. And you and I took that and understood that as being plural, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's chapter number 3, verse 22, correct? Here it is in Hebrew. And I'm going to go over it right quickly with you. It says, Wayomer Yahweh Elohim dehain ha-adam. That means that Yahweh said, Elohim, behold, the man, he has existed like a cod, like one of, then it says from us. Okay, from us. From meaning this men right here. And then you see this us right here is this part. It's a noon. You see the noon? The noon has this and it has a dot in it. And then it has the ooh right here with a dot in it. They're saying that that means us. Correct? This is in the translations. You can look at it in English. It says the same thing. I'm going to show you that there's an agenda. There's something going on. Okay. So remember this. This is 3 chapter. You can look at it and verify it in Bible Hub, chapter number 3, verse 22. Let me show you something. Let me show you that that's a lie. Oh. Here we are in chapter number 3 now. And we're going to go down to verse number 3 right here. Where is it at? Here you go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so listen what it says in verse number 3. And he says, of the fruit of the trees, and this is Yah giving it a command. And of course, again, I'm in chapter number 3 right here. The other one was chapter number 3, verse number 22. This one is chapter 3, verse number 3. It says, and Mipari from the tree that's in the midst of the garden, he said, meaning Yahweh, Elohim, not lo thokolu. Okay, that thokolu in that right here, this u means plurality. You can't eat from, look, him, it. So in chapter number 3, verse 22, it says us. In chapter number 3, verse number 3, it doesn't say us. It says him. You shall not eat from him. You understand? So the new again has a dot in it with another dot. Okay. And in Hebrew, a noon can either have a dot in it with it like this, or it could be like this, or it could be like that. Okay. One of them means us, and the other one means it or him. So I'm not trying to confuse you, but I want to let you know something. What it says in 3:22 that the man has become like one of us is not true, because he says from him, from it. It's not like one of us, it's from him. Yah says that you cannot eat from it or him, okay? And the reason why he's calling this tree him is because it's male in its nature. Why is it male? Somebody tell me, why is this tree called male? Because it has fruit. And what's inside the fruit?
Seed.
It has a seed. Anything with a seed in it is masculine. They have both male and female trees. This in particular tree is a masculine tree because it has a seed in it. Okay. But I can't just give you one place, because you would say, well, that's just one place, and that's just maybe an accident. So let's look at another one. The final one is here. It's in chapter number 2. And it is in verse number 17. Chapter number 2, verse number 17. But from the tree and from the eights, the tree of knowledge, hada'ath, of tov, the knowledge of good, okay, and evil. Okay, so it's the da'ath of the knowledge of good, and the wara, lo, you shall not to call, you shall not eat from him or it. So where's the mistranslation? The mistranslation is in the English that tells you, and in the Hebrew that they purposely did on purpose, because they don't want you to know that it's not saying that man has become like one of us. It's not saying that. It's saying that man has come not like, but he's become one from it. And that is the tree. This idea of us is only introduced so you can think that there's more gods. That's what you're going to think. You're going to think that there's some other Elohim besides Elohim. You're going to think that there's another power besides Elohim. When that word us is in there, they're pushing your mind. Just like they pushed our minds to say that, the Satan, or it was Satan and it wasn't a beast. That's like they pushed our mind and said it wasn't, it was he asked her a question. No. Do you understand that language and words can drive a person in certain directions? So when it says Yahweh Elohim said, see, the man has become like one of us, the question you would ask is like, who's that? And when you can't answer that question, then you go off and you start thinking. And you start what? Imagining. You start using your imagination to come up with an idea about who this us is. So you might say they're angels. You might say they're Christ in the New Testament. You see, that must be the angels. Oh, that must be the New Testament. That must be Christ. Oh, that must be the 24 elders of the book of Revelation. So you got all these different ideas, and those are not true. Those are mistranslations to direct you away from the truth. The fact of the matter is that when the man had did this, according to this, because this is talking about his punishment, that what happened was he became like, not like us. He became like it. And what he became like it was, he decided that he wanted to be his own. Actually, this was the first time in which humanity as a whole has decided to be idolatrous and to have their own mindset, okay? And Azer, as I talked about before, was a woman who's supposed to be a helper. So listen what he says to the woman. When the serpent had made that statement, the woman answered. She answered the serpent. She said, we may eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, Elohim said, you are neither to eat from it nor touch it, or you will die. Did he say that? Did the Creator say that? Don't be afraid to answer. Did the Creator said you can't touch it?
Just eat from it.
No, he didn't. So what did she do?
He lied.
He added.
She added. She added. She embellished it. She made more of what Yahweh said than what she is supposed to. And a lot of us would think that she's the one, right? That let's point the finger at her. She's the one who did it. She's the blame. You got to remember who she is. Who is she? Who's the woman?
Advisor.
She's the advisor, but who is she though? Guess who she is? She's Adam. Yah's not singling a woman out so he can blame her. He's not doing that. He's using a woman as an example to us to understand that it wasn't just the woman who did this. They're unified. She's the part of him that answered on behalf of the species. She's not the only one who did it. How do you know that she's the one who just added? How do you know that he's not the one who told her that? He never responds whatsoever. You see, but they want us to believe that she's the one who did this. You got to ask some questions. Why did she say you can't touch it? She come on that on her own? No. Her and her husband had a discussion, they had a conversation, and it's going to be proven because the fact of the matter is he tries to blame her, which is blaming himself. My point, everyone, is that the male and the female are one. Don't look at it like she's the blame. She's not the blame. They're the blame. It's not a she and he issue. It's they issue, or us, or we. Okay? Let me explain to you what death is, because I asked the question, well, what's ma moth? What's ma? Ma is what, and moth is death. What's death? What death are you talking about? What death? When he said you eat, you'll surely die, what death he's talking about? Well, in Wayikra 18, he tells us something. Yah tells us that you are to obey my rulings and my laws, my kukim, right? My mishpatim and kukim, and live accordingly. I am Yahweh your Elohim. You are to observe my laws and my rulings. If a person does them, he will have life through them. So the idea about death and life for you and I has been distorted. We think death is just going to the grave, and we think life is just breathing. Well, Yah was telling them about the day that you eat, you're going to die. He wasn't addressing the fact of them just dying physically. What he was telling them is that if the moment that you take upon this imagination, the moment you start thinking differently, and the moment that your eyes become open, you're going to start thinking outside of what I told you. I gave you a command to help you and to benefit you. But the moment that you eat from this, you're going to eat its fruit and you're going to participate in it, and it's going to change the way you think. The way you change the way you think will bring death unto you. That means it's going to bring death to your relationship. It's going to bring death to a lot of other things, because the decision that you made is that you don't want to take my counsel now. You don't want to take my counsel. You want to determine what's good and what's evil. That's what you want. That's why you're going to die. You're going to die because you're going to think that eating this is okay. You're going to think that eating pork is okay. You're going to believe that every day is the Shabbat. You're going to be able to make the decisions on what you think is good and what's functional and what's evil. That's what he's talking about. Because in the Torah, he tells us that the things that I'm telling you, if you do them, you'll live. You'll live if you do what I'm telling you. If you follow my Shabbats, you'll live. Again, in Ezekiel, he tells us that if I gave them my laws and I showed them my rulings, if a person obeys them, he'll have life. So in essence, we got the garden issue, and we have that a person can partake in the tree of life, of good and the knowledge of good and evil. And now Yah introduced us to the Torah, which gives us an opportunity to live. Not eternally forever, like you and I will never die, because we've been dying ever since. The physical death was never in question. If you look at the Hebrew scriptures, it has an infinitive absolute on front of the word. It says, dying, you will die, meaning that dying, if it's an infinitive absolute, it means that death is part of life. That is the cycle of life. But while you're living, you will experience death. Death to relationships, death to how you perceive things. You're going to bring upon yourself corruption based on your imagination, based upon your thoughts. He said, I gave them my Shabbats as a sign between me and them, so that they would know that I, Yahweh, am the one who makes them Kadosh. If you would live according to what I'm saying, you'll live. If you obey the Shabbat, you'll live. If you follow my signs, you'll live. I told you about my Shabbat in the beginning. So the Shabbat is not something that came along just for Yisrael. The Shabbat has always been around, but you and I got a choice to make. You got a choice. And you find this in the book of Devarim, chapter number 30, verse 15 through 16. Moshe brings us and presents us with a choice, just like in a garden you had a choice. You got a choice every single time. I'm presenting you today with, on one hand, life and good, and on the other hand, death and evil. So you get the same choice that was available in the garden. In that I'm ordering you today to love Yahweh your Elohim and follow his ways and obey his commandments, his mitzvot, his regulations and rulings. For if you do, you will what? You'll live. And you'll increase your numbers. That's life. Eating is life. Survival is life. Quality of life. Yahweh your Elohim will bless you in your land that you're going to enter in and take possession of it. Because that's what Yah's intention is. This is the purpose of the Torah. The Torah is to give a person the opportunity to make a choice between life and good and death and evil. So you and I don't have to wait to go back to the garden. Things have changed. The mindset have changed. You understand? But not only you have a choice, but you have to choose. You have to choose. You have to understand what your purpose of life is. This is why Moshe called on the heaven and the earth to be a witness against you and I. That day that I have presented you with life, I've given you life. And I've also presented you with death, the blessing and the curse. The blessing goes with life and the curse goes with death. And death is to be spit upon and to be looked upon and to be ruined and to come to nothing. Therefore, choose life. You can choose it so that you will live and your descendants. You and your descendants are able to live, loving Yahweh, your Elohim, and paying attention to what he says. And there's that word, clinging to him. For that is the purpose of your life. And on this depends the length of time that you will live in the land Yahweh, your Elohim, swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. That's what this is about. It's about making a choice. And the choice that she made was that they chose to have a different mind. The Nakash. What's the Nakash? It's the serpent. He said to the woman, going back to the conversation. Now they're in this conversation. He said, it's not true. That's not true that you will surely die, because Elohim knows that on the day that you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. See, that's the Yasar again. That's the mindset. That's to get you going. Okay. But you got to know who created evil. Yah created evil. I form the light. I create darkness. I make well-being. I create evil. I, Yahweh, do all things. Why has Yah created evil? Why did he put a tree there for them to make that choice? Did he not know that they would make that choice? Absolutely, he knew they would make that choice. He knows everything. He does. He also knows that you and I will use our eyes to make decisions. And the eyes that you and I have will cause us to do certain things. And number one, it'll cause you to desire something. Like she desired the food. She desired what she saw. It was very pleasing to her in the appearance of it. And it was desirable. She coveted it. That word desirable means that she coveted. She longed for it. She had a craving for it. But the thing about it was she wanted it to make her wise. She wanted to make her prudent. She was making decisions for the future instead of dealing with what the Creator said. And that's our problem. But again, you would say this, the woman saw this. No, her husband saw it too. He was right there. She is a representative of all humankind. That's what it is. Our desire is to become wiser than Elohim. Our desire is to, whatever our eyes see, that's what you and I want. So what did she do? She gave some up to her husband, and he ate it, and the eyes of both of them were open, and they realized that they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Do you know in the book of Better Sheep is all the beginning of the first surgery, the first anesthesia, the first garment, the first sewing class, the first everything. Everything happened right there. Your eyes will get you in trouble, okay? But what happened that was really not so good, and this is the reason for divorce. This is the reason why we're having these problems is because of this word teshukwa. When Yah decided to punish them for their actions, their behavior, because there are consequences, the woman said, okay, this is what he said to the woman, excuse me. I will greatly increase your pain in childbirth. You will bring forth children in pain. Your desire will be toward your husband, but he will rule over you. A lot of people thought that desire was sexual. A lot of people thought that desire was to seek him for wisdom. A lot of people thought that desire was that, okay, but he's going to rule over you. This is what Yah has determined for the Nekeva, okay? The word desire here, because of her desire to be wise and her desire to crave after having more wisdom and to have a better future and to make her smarter than what Yah had said, she thought that she can achieve a greater level of intelligence by doing what they wanted to do. And that's our problem. Her teshukwa, her desire is to run over her husband like water. That's her desire. I'm going to run over my husband. The Creator is telling Nekeva today that your problem is, and what you're going to do, just like you have a baby and you're going to scream when you have to give birth to that child, I'm going to expand your pelvis, I'll make your bones hurt, I'm going to make your back hurt and all that kind of stuff. That's just to remind you about what you did. That's what I want to remind you about. Every time you scream and you hear that cry, that's a reminder. Every time you go on to have forth that baby, that's reminding, that panting of air is to remind you of what I did for you by giving you life. You're gonna have pain. You're gonna have pain raising your children. I'm gonna bring pain to you now. And also too, you're gonna try to run your husband. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna try to override what he says, like water. You're gonna try to go over and beyond what you're supposed to. And as a result of that, I'm gonna use your husband to rule over you. You've lost your ability to rule because you were ruling with him, but you've lost your ability. And guess what? I want to make everybody understand something today. A woman today can never, ever, and shall not ever in the future rule her husband. Never. Just like she's always going to have babies and she's always going to have children, you're always going to have your husband to be ruler over you. And he doesn't supposed to rule you with an iron fist. He's supposed to rule you in wisdom. He's supposed to rule you in love. He's supposed to rule you in order to put constraints on you, because your personality is to rule over him. Your personality and who you are is to go beyond what you're supposed to go beyond. That's what it is. Therefore, I'm going to put him in control over this in order to protect humanity now. That's why you lost your power. And it makes a lot of our Nekevas upset, the fact that they can't rule because you guys have these great ideas. but Yah gives you the Torah in order for you to execute that. So you can now, the reason why this has to happen is because my desire is to bring you guys back into oneness. Okay. And if you don't do this, I'm going to tell you the consequence of it. Okay. The consequence of it is found in this idea of the son that she had called Qayin. Okay. Qayin. His name is not Cain. His name is Qayin. Yahweh said to Qayin in chapter number 4, your Torah portion, that why are you angry? He was upset because he tried to offer Yah something, Yah wouldn't receive it because he didn't like it. Okay. And he said, why are you angry? Why are you so downcast? Meaning, why is your content is down? If you're doing what is good, shouldn't you hold your head high? And if you don't do what is good, sin is crouching at your door. It wants you, but you can rule over it. What I highlight here, it wants you, is the same identical word that's used for what the woman will do. It's the same word called desire. It's called teshukwa. Teshukwa. Okay. So just like her desire is going to try to teshukwa over her husband, Yah tells Qayin that sin is going to teshukwa over you. It's going to try to rule you. It's going to try to run over you. It's going to try to control you. You see? But you can rule over it. You know, so looking at it from a religious standpoint, which you and I are no longer religious, the idea that you can't control it doesn't mean what the Torah says or what Yah has declared. Yah says you can rule over. You can put a stop to it. You can actually stop it from running over you and controlling you. It's lurking. It's waiting to run completely over you, but you can stop it. You can rule over it. So why do Yah use the same word for, teshukwa and teshukwa for the woman and teshukwa for this? Is it because he's just trying to let us know both of these people are evil, or is the woman sin? Is she sinful? Is she like sin? No. Yah's letting us know something. He's letting the woman, the Nekeva, know today, okay? In spite of you reading Torah, and you think that you're doing the right thing, if you go against what the Creator is saying, and you're thinking that, oh, I'm not doing that, and I won't let my husband rule, and you're emasculating him, you're sinning against the Creator, and sin is going to rule over you. And it is ruling over you. And when sin rules over you, then you cannot achieve none of the things in which that's why you were built and why you're an helper. That's what it is. You understand? So you're not sinful, but you're going to try to rule. You're going to try to run over, and you can't do that. If you are doing that, you're being like sin, and you don't supposed to be. And who am I talking to? Am I just talking to the woman? No. Am I talking to Nekeva? No. Nekeva is Zakar. They're both the same. He was talking to a Zakar right there. So what is he telling him? He's telling the same exact thing that he told the Nekeva. He just told him exactly the same thing. There's other things that are going to try to rule over you, and you cannot allow it to rule over you. He tells the man there's consequences. The consequences are this. He told the man this. Now listen to this. Zakar. To Adam, he said, because you have listened to what your wife said, and you ate from the tree in which I gave you the command, the order, you are not to eat from it. The ground is cursed on your account. You will work hard to eat from it as long as you live, and it will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat field plants. You ain't gonna eat the fruit no more. You're not gonna eat the fruit anymore, not from the garden. You will eat bread by the sweat of your forehead till you return to the ground, for you were taken out of it, and you are dust, and you will return to dust. Because of what he did, all of the land was cursed. He cursed the Adamah on behalf of him because that's what he was taken out of, which tells us the consequences of our actions. Yah, if you and I misbehave, Yah will then decide the first thing I want to go to is that which you came from. So I'll hit you with famine. I'll hit you from that. I'll also exile you. I'll put you outside of the land. Just like I'm going to put them out of the garden, I'm going to put you out of the land. Therefore, Yahweh Elohim sent him out of the garden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. And he drove the man out, and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden, the covering with a flaming sword, and it turned in every direction to guard the way of the tree of life. Those thorns and thistles, by the way, are the things that come up out of the earth. If the woman herself is like the Adamah, which things are coming out of her, which he plants the seed in her, what he's talking about is the hardships that you're going to have with your children. Your children will be thorns and thistles to you. The work that you got to do in that field is going to be very difficult. I need to remind the man that the work that he's going to do in the field is representative of the work that's going to happen in his life. His life is going to be very difficult. He's not going to have the results that he's looking for. Instead of your children turning out to being, flourishing and all these types of things, you've gone against me. So therefore, this is what I got to do. Now, am I saying that these things are going to be forever? No. When I'm saying that Yah has done something different for us, and I'm going to give us some hope. I know I just tore everybody down, but the fact is this: Yah tears us down in order to build us up. There's a Garden of Eden that's outside of the Garden of Eden. Okay. Somebody put, what if your husband goes against the Torah? Well, we're going to answer that right now. I got to answer. The Garden of Eden is this: Yah is going to turn our land back into the Garden of Eden. Okay. The land that was desolate will be tilled, whereas it formerly lay desolate for all passing by to see. They will say the land that used to be desolate has become like the Garden of Eden, and the cities formerly ruined, abandoned, and wasted, and have been fortified and inhabited. Yah is going to make our land like the Garden of Eden. Yah tells us that you will live in the land that I gave to your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. I will save you from all your uncleannesses, and I will summon the grain and increase it and not send famine against you in the land. And I will multiply the yield of the fruit. Where? In the land. From the trees, and I will increase your production in the fields. Where? In the land. So that you will never again suffer the reproach of famine among the nations. That's what I'm going to do. As a Zakar, I want you to remember this. I need you to remember, when I bring you back to the land, that your ways, they were evil, and that your actions, that they weren't good. As you look at yourselves, you will loathe yourselves for your guilt and your disgusting practices. Understand the Supreme Master Yahweh says, what? That I am not doing this for your sake. Instead, be ashamed and be dismayed for your ways, O house of Israel. When we go back to the land, people, when you and I get there, he wants us to zakar. He wants us to remember. He wants us to be reminded of our evil ways. And what this tells us is, like right now, you and I feel like, well, I'm not doing anything evil. He's not talking about the stuff that you and I have come to the knowledge of right now. What he's talking about is Yah's going to give us an open eye. He's going to open our eyes like their eyes were open in the Garden of Eden. He's going to open our eyes to see all the things that we did do. You and I don't really know who we are. We're an eternal people. And you don't know the things that you have done completely. You don't really know them. Your eyes have been shut, and I'm going to prove that. Okay. To answer your question, Fanta, without any further delay, the man that doesn't follow the Torah is a fool. Okay. Yah has not caused us to be governed and to be ruled by a fool. If a man is not following what the Torah says, he is going to be destroyed. And unfortunately, you may have to leave that man. That's what it is. Anybody that doesn't follow the Torah is an abomination. Even their prayer is an abomination. You can look at that in Proverbs chapter number 20, I think it's 24 or 28. Okay. And the person who does that, and anybody who doesn't keep the Torah praises the wicked. And cursed is any man who doesn't inform or lift up the Torah. That person's cursed. That's what it is. We're living in a place where, people are doing what they want to do. And I know it's difficult because we have Western culture that tells us something otherwise. But again, you and I are not Western culture. This is where Yah is calling us out of Western culture. And he's telling us that you guys are Yisrael. You're Yisrael. And if you are Yisrael, you're mandated to keep the Torah. As a man of Torah, you're supposed to run your house, teach your house, and be a man full of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. As I've been telling our men know this. They know I don't cut any corners on nothing. If you want to be a ruler, you better prove yourself to be worthy of being a ruler. You have to show fidelity. You have to show patience. You have to show kindness. You and I have to become like Elohim. We have to be like him. We have to be long-suffering. We have to be somebody who can feel like they can trust us to come to us so we can hear what they're saying. You're there to, to discuss quarrels and arguments, and you have to have wisdom. I mean, it's been one of the hardest things that I've had to learn, that I'm not always right. There's been plenty of times, but I don't need my wife to tell me that. All I got to do is look at, if I don't like something about her, look at myself. Okay, why is she doing that? Oh, Most High is telling me, look at her because that's what you're doing to me. I'm like, what? Yeah. She ain't spending enough time with you. Why? Because you ain't spending enough time with me. You're not the priority. Why? Because I'm not a priority for you. I'll use her as a mirror. That's why I set her before you. So when you look at her, you're really looking at yourself. Because you guys are one, period. Okay. So you and I are Yisrael. And because you and I are Yisrael, we need to understand what the Creator says about us. He told us earlier in the Torah portion that he created man, right? That he Yatsar, he formed him, he fashioned him. Well, look what else the Yah has fashioned. Yashayahu says this, but now this is what Yahweh says. He who created you, Yaakov, who Yatsar, who formed you, Yisrael, don't be afraid. For I have redeemed you. I'm calling you by your name. You are mine. You're mine. And the prophet says it. The Navi says it. What does the prophet say? The prophet says, because I regard you as valued. This is how Yah sees Yisrael. This is what a man should look at his wife. I value you, okay? And you're honored. And because I love you, for you, I will give people, nations in exchange for your life. Why? Because I formed you. You're mine. Don't be afraid, for I'm with you. I will bring your descendants from the east, and I will gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, don't hold them back. Bring my sons from afar away, okay? And my daughters from the ends of the earth. Everyone who bears my name, whom I created for my glory. I formed him. Yes, I made him. If you look there, he's using the word him as a singular. But he said up here, my sons and my daughters in plural. Yah looks at us as one person. That's how Yah sees us, as one. So in the idea of a male and female, Zakar and Nekeva, when he looks at a man, he doesn't look at him alone. He looks at him as Zakar and Nekeva. And that's how we need to start looking at it. It's being unified, as being of oneness, one mind, one thought, one purpose, one Torah, one family. That's how we need to start looking at it. We're looking at it ourselves as individuals. If a man is not following the Torah, that means he's simply not looking at the family. If you don't follow the Torah, you don't care about your family. You don't care about passing something on to the next seed. You're not interested in building your sons and your daughters. You're not being like the Creator. The Creator cares about his sons and his daughters. He's a father. That's why he calls himself a father. He calls himself our husband, an Ish. Yeah, where do you think all these titles come from? It comes from the Creator. Bring forward the people who are blind, but have eyes, and also deaf who have ears. Who's blind? Who's blind? The person that I formed. You are my witnesses, says Yahweh, my servant, singular, my witnesses, plural. Again, you see Yahweh talking to us in plural form. And also, what are we witnesses to? We're witnesses to the Sabbath. We're witnesses to the diet. We're witnesses to the Moedim. We're witnesses to the Kukim and the Mishpatim, the rulings and the judgments. My servant whom I have chosen. Yahbakar, I chosen. When I chose the man, I chose you, Nekeva. I took you out from him. So don't disassociate yourself and think you're on your own and that you can do it by yourself. You don't need him. He actually needs you. And without you, he doesn't exist. And the only reason why I made him is so you could exist. You better hear what he's saying. Trust me. That's why. So you can know and trust me and understand that I'm he. No Elohim was produced before me, and nor will there be any after me. Why? Because I'm a Akkad. I'm oneness. And if you guys are claiming that you're Yisrael, then you have to be Akkad. Nekeva, Zakar, we have to be Akkad. Yisrael, We can't stand on our own and think we're going to be on an island by ourselves and, we don't need anybody. We need each other. Ah, yes, I'm Yahweh. Besides me, there is no deliverer. I have declared and saved and proclaimed not some alien Elohim among you. Therefore, you are my witnesses. We testify to the fact that Yah is Akkad. And we know we need to go beyond saying that he's Akkad by, if you and I truly believe that Yah is Akkad, that there is a strong connection between heaven and earth, then you and I would honor the image that you and I are made in, which is the image of Zakar and Nekeva. Thus saith Yahweh, Elohim, who created the heavens and spread them out, and who stretched out the earth and all that grows from it, going back to the creation narrative, found in chapter number 42 of Yeshayahu, who gives breath to the people on it, and the spirit to those who walk upon it. I said the other night that he's given his Ruach to everybody, and he has given the Ruach to everyone. A Ruach, not the Ruach, not his Ruach. I, Yahweh, called you righteously. I took hold of you by the hand. I shaped you. I made you a covenant for the people to be a light, or mentioned in Genesis chapter number 1, first day. I made you or for the Goyim. So when you think about it, pausing here, when you think about why he made or, we found out or is about order. Or is about organization. Or is about light. Or is about a flame. Or is to put things in a proper perspective. Or is to help designate and to design. That's what or is for. So this is why I made you, Yisrael. And if you don't understand that and you can't comprehend or, okay, then you're not going to understand anything else. The Torah is light. You see, so if you claim that you follow the Torah, but you're not Akkad in your marriage, you better stop saying Yah's name out your mouth. You better stop saying it. I'm just telling you. We better stop saying that. This is a mandate from the King of the universe. Everyone under the sound of my voice today need to understand. You and I cannot claim the Yah is Akkad and you got problems in your marriage. Don't you open your mouth to say anything about the Creator, because you and I are reflective of that image. And if you and I don't respect that, and that means from both sides, then you and I cannot claim and pronounce his name, because you and I go get a rude awakening. This is our job. This is our work. This is a decision that we made. We wanted to think for ourselves, and as a result, we're in a bad predicament. We're in a bad situation. But you and I can work our way out of it if we would follow the Torah. The idea is to open up the eyes of the blind. When is we going to be the light to the nations? Right now? No. Right now, you and I need to be a light to ourselves. Right now, that Torah needs to be shining in your heart, and then goes from you, and then it goes, and it could be in your house. That's for the priority. The priority is your home, okay? So the idea of this is a future where Yah is talking about, and freeing the prisoners from confinement and those living in darkness from the dungeon. That's when I call you to be my servant. That's the goal. So listen, you deaf, and he's talking in the future. Look, you blind, so that you will see. Who is as blind as my servant, and as deaf as the messenger I send? Who is as blind as the one I rewarded? As blind as the servant of Yahweh. They claim that Yeshua is the Messiah. They claim that he's the servant of Isaiah 53, and he's a servant of Isaiah 54, and he's a servant all through Isaiah 49. Well, why is he not the servant here in 42? Is he blind, or was he blind? See? The same servant in 42 is the same servant in 53. The same one in 49. But Yah says that you and I are blind. Going back to what happened in the garden. What happened in the garden is that their eyes were opened, meaning they saw things differently. They had a different imagination, a different mind. All through the Tanakh, Yah, there's some times where Yah was requested. They said, Yah, open up the eyes of these people so they can see. And they opened up their eyes and they saw all these fiery chariots. And this is in the book of 1 Kings, I believe, or no, 2 Kings chapter number 4 or number 5. And there's different times when men had asked Yah to open up their eyes to see something. So what we do know is there's things that you and I don't see. Our eyes might be open right now, but he says, listen, you deaf, and open and look, you blind. Why? Because you and I are blind. Yah hasn't opened up our eyes. He hasn't. We have a little bit of information, but our eyes haven't been fully open, because in context, he's talking about when he brings us back to be his servant. That's when he's going to take the blindness off of us. That's when you and I are going to fully understand it. To confirm that, you go to Deuteronomy. He says, when I bring you back to the land, then I will give you a heart to fully love me, you and your children. Because right now you guys you don't get it. Ezekiel, when I bring you back to the land, before I bring you in it, I'm going to cleanse you. I got to give you a new mind. I got to give you a new spirit. We got to do something new. Okay. But he said, look, you see much, but you don't pay attention. You open ears, but you don't listen. So your ears might be open, your eyes might be open, but you're blind and you're deaf. You see? Yah was pleased for his righteousness' sake to make the Torah great and glorious, because that's the purpose. That's the purpose of the Torah. The purpose of the Torah is to open a person's eyes. And you and I have just what they would call a portion of it. We don't have the full download. Okay. So I want to make it clear today. Okay. I know it's tough talk. I know it seems like, I might have been a little rougher on one than the other, but the truth is I'm not. I'm just telling you that the Nekeva is the male. You're the male. You're part of the male. Without you, nothing would ever happen. Without you, there won't be a family. That's just the truth. You remain and I'm sorry, but I'm not. It falls on you. You need to support the male. And if you don't support him, he's going to fail. Period. But your calling is not based on what he has determined for you to be. Yes, he named you and said you're Isha. Yes, he said you're bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Yes, he loves to be with you. Yes, he loves your cooking and all this kind of stuff. But your calling is greater than that which a man can say. You've actually put yourself on the back burner because you haven't stepped up to, you think it's wrong, or you think it's less of a woman by being the helper, or by, and don't get me wrong, I know there's some jerks out here, and I know there's some people out here that really shouldn't be a husband over anybody, less of be a father, because they don't show any fidelity. But again, if you look at it, it goes back to how they were raised. Okay. And when you go raised, and I'll just tell you, one time my mom, she got mad at me because I told her, I said, well, how can you blame me for anything? She said, what do you mean? I said, you raised me. And she said, yeah, I did. I did the best I knew how. She said, it's not my fault that your father wasn't there. He left. He wanted to be with other people. And I could have bought that story, and I did. But then I looked at it and I asked her, I said, well, when you met him, what did your father tell you about him? She said, well, Daddy told me not to be with him. And I said, okay, there's your answer. See? So ultimately, she made a decision to go against her father, which led to the reason why she ended up being with somebody that who didn't honor, who didn't love her and mistreated her. Okay? And his story is completely different. Both of their stories, they're two the same people, and they're both pointing a finger at each other, just like in the garden. Oh, it's the woman. Oh, it's the man, or it's the serpent. It's this and that. If you notice, Yah judged everybody. There was nobody who walked away scot-free. You see? And then you look at one's punishment and say, well, that's worse. The woman actually got the worst. She got the worst deal. She got pain in her body. But it talked about that man working in the field. They used the same word for pain. He got pain too. His pain is having to work a field that won't bring forth any fruit, or at least nothing that he wanted. It won't be no abundance anymore. So what we learn from this is there's consequences that you and I are bearing, not that we will bear, that we have bear and will continue to bear. Yah's never going to change the idea of pain. He's never going to change the idea of death. He's never going to change that. He's never going to change, the man being the ruler. He's never going to change that the woman's the helper. And the Torah doesn't discuss these things. The Torah that's given to us is not discussed. Why? Because they understood it. They knew what it was. Do they have problems? Yes. Does a husband have multiple wives? Yes. Why? And not only because he hates his wife, it's simply because, maybe they couldn't have kids. There's a variety of different reasons. But what we have to do is we have to look at what our roles and responsibilities are and live up to that to the best of our ability. If you are doing everything that you possibly can do to be the best helper that you can be, then you pray to Yah and ask him. If you have a man in your life who's not following the Torah, pray for him. Pray for him and ask Yah to either help him or remove him. Period. You don't have to go on and keep challenging it. Trusting Yah. Make Yah your refuge. But we've also been told that we shouldn't look from anybody. We're on our own. We found out today that the man and the woman are one. My wife is me, and I'm her. We're we. We're not you and me. It's a us type of situation. And the reason why it's supposed to be like that is simply because the Creator has designed it that way. And he's designed it for the reason and the purpose of us understanding what the unification with him should be like. It shouldn't be him and us. It should be us or him and we're separated from him. No, not at all. We're different. We're a different type of species of people. When Yah made all the different species of animals and birds and fish, and he made a variety of all different types. Then when it comes to humanity, we think we're all the same. That's not true. If you look at the variety of cultures in human life, there's different after its kind. There's different types, all different types of peoples, all different types. But when he made Israel, there's only one type. That seed is different than every other seed on the face of this planet. So you and I have to rise to the occasion. We have to grow to this. And it's not going to be perfect. We've been in exile. We've been taught by these Westerners how to look at marriage, how to look at sex, how to look at family, how to look at the male anatomy and the female anatomy. We don't even understand it. But when you look at it from Yahweh's perspective, you can see the beauty in it. You understand? And so if we understand and we can find the oneness in the relationship between a man and a woman, which is reflective of our relationship with the Creator. He's created that union. You understand? And nothing or nobody's supposed to come in between it. That's why he says that idolatry is the same as adultery. And you use your eyes to do such a thing. Both male and female. Today, if you look online and all kind of stuff, all type of people are having adulterous affairs. There's no faithfulness. People are having affairs and cheating and committing adultery with not only just their bodies, but with their minds. And Yah's going to judge humanity for this, and we'll find that in our next Torah portion. Because that's next. What's next is talking about Noah and his family and how Yah decided, I'm going to destroy the earth. I'm going to destroy it with water. I'm going to get rid of everything. I'm getting rid of everybody and everything because their desire is always to do evil. That's their desire. Because their decision-making process is always bent on doing that which is dysfunctional. So I got to start over again. And he does. You understand? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up next week. Just understand that you and I have to accept what Yah says. You want your marriage to last? You want to build your family? You want to see your grandkids and your great grandkids? You want to leave a legacy behind? Then all of us, not just the female and not just the male. Here's my recommendation as a teacher. Today, not tomorrow. Today, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. You have to make a plan about whether or not you really want to fully follow the Creator. This is not a religion. You can't do what you want to do anymore. You can't live your life the way that you've always lived it. You can't go off of what your mother and your father taught you. You can't. You have to abandon those things. You have to abandon what you thought was okay and what's approved and what's not approved. You have to accept the fact that you may very well be wrong in your approach. You and I have to make the decision today that you and I are going to be better listeners, not to buy excuses. And if you hear an excuse come out of somebody's mouth, you don't have to respond by saying, I know that that's a lie, and you're just making up another excuse. What you have to do is understand that, okay, this is what I'm in. I'm in this situation I'm in. I want to make the best of it. And I want Yah to be the center of it. If you look at what happened to humanity, the center focal point of what it was that destroyed them was the fact of the command that Yah gave. Is because they disobeyed that command that changed their outcome on their life. That is the focal point. Yah has given a command, and it is what it is. So take your death the way you're supposed to take it. Take your relationship the way you're supposed to take it, and you make the best out of it. If you're a ruler, be the best ruler you can be. Be a loving ruler. Be like the Creator. If you're a helper, be the best helper that you can be. You find ways to help. Obviously, he needs your help. I ain't talking about being no codependent either. You understand? That's what we got to do. And that takes courage. So kazak, vani kazak. Be strengthened and be encouraged. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do today. We are going to have our Hebrew class later on this afternoon. Praise be to the living Elohim. Are there any remarks, contributions, questions?
Shabbat Shalom, Brother David and
Yes.
Israel family. Yeah, I mean, I just find that the teaching was just, as you said, the Torah eye-opening. And there's just so much wisdom coming out from the book.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing how we go to school and we learn we learn different ways to do things. You know, you just learn a skill. But I mean, today, I mean, I can actually understand and see that the only place that you can learn and understand wisdom and get wisdom is by understanding this book. It's really amazing.
Praise. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Remarks. Go ahead.
You also said, like, the way in which you compared the Garden of Eden to the land of Israel. I mean, it is just so right, because look at the way in which Father Yahweh referred to Israel as his bride.
Yes.
And he being the father, so he brings his bride back to the land, which is the same thing that the garden had, a bride and a groom too, you know, both male and female back to the land.
Yes.
And again, he referring to Israel as his bride. Of course, we are scattered, but we are still birthing sons and daughters for him. So which is his remnant, which he will take back to the land. It's just really, really, really beautiful knowledge and really amazing. I really enjoyed it. And thank you.
Oh, praise be to the living Elohim. Yes, is exactly true. So when we look at the book of Bereshith, understand that it's like a picture of what he's going to do. He mentions light because light is what we're going to give. You see? So what is that light? Is it Yom? Is it we're going to give day to people? No, we're going to give people the Torah. And we're going to have to do that. But right now in exile, and us being put out like they were put out, right? Man was exiled. Cain was exiled from his land. So you see exile all through there, right? And we're going to see this change in which the Creator is doing for his people. So you and I are to understand and to learn that let's just take him at his word. You know, let's stop looking and fighting each other, right? And going against each other. Make the best of where we're at. In your exile, make the best of it. In your marriage, make the best of your marriage. Make a high level of commitment to it. Make sure that, like you said, I like what you said, Akoti Kadia, that we're building sons and daughters for him, right? So we have to do this, and that's the mandate, to teach your children, because if you don't teach your children, they're not going to understand, and they're going to fail as well. That if we don't keep the command that's to all humanity, and that's the way that Yah has showed us. So we have to keep that. This is what we have to do. This is what we're doing, because the breakdown of the family is where it's all happening. You don't have a family, you have nothing. There's no reason for the Torah. There's no purpose for the Torah. If there's no family, if there's no husband and no wife, there's no family, there's no Torah. The Torah is supposed to be used to govern our lives. So if we don't have the lives that we have, it's because we're not following the Torah. You see, Yah's already stipulated what it is. Just like he didn't change, he hasn't changed death. He hasn't changed fruits and vegetables. He hasn't changed the sky. He hasn't changed the sun and the moon and the stars. So while all of a sudden now he's going to change what he said. He hasn't changed birth pains. He hasn't changed it. So why would he change the rulership? Why would he change you being a helper? Why would he change the hardships? Moshe confirms it and says your life ain't nothing but toil and sorrow all your days. It's not easy for anybody. So we got to stop looking at, well, it seems like it's easier for a man because he can stand up and pee. Or he doesn't have a menstrual cycle. He doesn't have pain, monthly pains. So life is easy for him. It's not easy. It's not easy for the woman. It's not. Why? Because she's not strong, muscular, because she's not, bench pressing 350 pounds. So all of a sudden she's not strong. No, she is strong. She is. She's strong enough to be considered by Yah to be the helper of humanity. And we need to respect each other's roles. That's the point. Let's just remember what he said. Let's just stop getting off of what we think and say, well, what did he say? We can't say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, not eat pork. But then all of a sudden it comes time for your wife to give you some counsel. And you go, no, you don't even consider, you don't even listen. No, we need to start listening. And we need to start obeying the Creator. And by the way, sisters, Okoth, you have a problem with your husband, go to the Creator. Keep your mouth closed and go to the Creator. Try that. Go to him and say, you created me to be a helper. He won't let me help him. Woo! Brothers, Akim, you have a problem? You got a disrespectful wife who don't want to listen to anything you say? Don't say nothing. Let it all fall. Then maybe after it all falls, maybe then she'll trust you in your judgment. Well, hey, did Yah do that to us? Is he talking to us right now? Like, are we in his presence or what? No. You don't want to listen? You don't want to behave? I'll stop talking to you until you decide to change your ways. You see? So often we do a lot of talking, but we don't do a lot of listening. And when you listen, going back to what the enemy had did, don't listen. If somebody's talking to you, you got to be careful. They're not going to ask you a question and get to you. They'll make a statement to elicit something from you. You got to be more aware of when people are talking to you. That's what my advice and my counsel is today. They're not going to try to get to you with a question. The enemy is going to get to you with a statement. They're going to just say something, and they want you to say something because they know you like to talk. But just listen very carefully. And you don't always have to respond. That's another point. And the man should have responded. He should have said something. He got punished because he didn't respond. He allowed his wife to put them in that position because he didn't do anything to stop it. So look at that story again. It's not just on her, it's on him too. Period, because he got punished as well. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise be to the living Elohim. Anyone else before I go? And don't be mad at me. You ain't coming to class no more. I don't like what he said. He just gave everybody a pass. No, I didn't give anybody a pass. We're all in it together. Just know what it is. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you for what you said about Nakash. I had read about that when I first was awakened, and how, Adam who had this extensive vocabulary knew what to call everything but that, right? And didn't know what to call it. But so also, yes, thank you for saying that. But also in the teaching that Elder Bill and I watched this morning that you did, and you were very explicit about saying to us that Genesis was not Torah, that it wasn't the instruction. And also just like, thank you for being always honest. And you really do understand that it was a book of creation. And it's you know, truth is just good for us to stand on, because it never fails us, and it always gives us context, and it allows us to walk amid confusion, and it allows us to lie back and repose and have wisdom and make the decisions that allow us to maintain righteousness in this last days. Everyone's talking about deliverance, and if you really think that we're being delivered, then where you should be is right here in Torah, learning as much of it as you can, because you don't want to make any missteps right now. So tada for today's lesson, and for all the lessons you do, brother. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you for those remarks. What else I was going to tell you guys? Let me see here. I had something I wanted to show you. Everyone still on? There was something I wanted to, I almost forgot. But let's see. Okay. Okay, here you go. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Azania, can you lead people through about, here's the website?
Oh, yes. Toda. This is the Zion Rising website. Hallelujah. We are just about finished putting it up. My son and the Secretary of VS still have some articles and things to put up, but we do have the parashah put up, our Torah portions put up, we have absolute knowledge put up, and we do have some articles put up and some information about Moedim. So if you guys like, please join us at risingofzion.com if you have some time this weekend or not doing anything. Just, you know, stop by and see what we've put together. So all praises to the Most High. And you guys, if you have a word that the Most High has given to you, please submit your teachings. Yeah, just let me know, submit your teachings, and we'd be so happy if you were to publish with us, and if you would speak, you know, the word of the Most High. So all praises.
All praise. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that with everyone. Let you guys know what Akoti Azania and her wonderful husband and her team and her family is doing. It's a great little resource for us, and I praise Yah for her and for her allowing me to participate on that level and to make some contributions to the site for all of us. We're a family of people who are, you know, we need to be encouraged. So, you know, have some articles, and like she said, you have some things you want to write about, or you want to express yourself in any type of way artistically through, you know, poems or design or whatever. Reach out to her. She can be found, like I said, was it Zion Rising, Rising of Zion, and also too, you can look at her on Facebook and in all those different ways. Praise be to the living Elohim. Anyone else? Well, if not,